we have a pretty big like checklist that our guys go through.
Yeah.
And our tune-ups are what an actual HVAC tune-up should be. We're not just in there changing the filter and turning it on and saying, oh, you're good to go. Our guys, we're checking gas pressure, static pressure, we're cleaning burners, flame sensor, we're checking every single major component, voltage, we're looking at the duct work. Like our guys are very thorough with their tune-ups. And that's the same thing when I have to run a tune-up. I go through it all. Yeah. And then at the end, we're checking heat exchangers, inducer motors. Like we go through it all, and then we're like, here's what's going on. Here's your list.
Okay.
And we clean the system. It sounds silly, but there's times where I show up as like a second opinion, and they're like, oh, we had Joe's Heating and Cooling out here, and they just did a tune-up, but they said I need a new one. And the furnace is literally filthy, full of dirt, cobwebs. And I feel like, man, you paid good money. And what you got was someone that came out and just changed the filter and said, you need a new one.
Yeah.
And I actually will teach my guys and prep them, like, you clean that furnace, you do everything, never let anyone come behind you and make it seem like, you half-assed it, you didn't do something correctly.
Yeah.
And it's just something as little as cleaning the furnace, because as a salesman, I'll use that to my advantage.
Absolutely.
I'll say, well, you paid $200 for a tune-up, but look at your system. Does that look like that was tuned up? What did they do?
Yeah.
So our guys are very meticulous and thorough. They have a whole checklist, and if it's not filled out, there's, they'll get an email like, hey, our guys are taking photos. And then if we can bring the customer.
I was going to ask you about that next.
Yeah, if we can bring the customer to the system and show them what we're seeing in real time.
Right.
I mean, nothing beats that. You have a customer that's willing to say, hey, look, here's what your motor is rated for. Here's what it's doing.
Okay.
Then, hey, it's leaking oil, and you show them. They're like, oh, it is.
Yeah. So that was going to be my follow-up question is when you notice, even on tune-up, things are working fine, but there's really a part or refrigerant that's really leaking.
Right.
So you like to bring them to the system and you talk about those parts.
Right.
Now, how do you talk about different parts? You try to make analogies or connections, because I'm not technical. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, but I'm not a technician by trade. So, for average Joe, how do you explain what refrigerant is or a compressor? Do you try and make analogies, or just do you explain how it works in the system?
Try to make analogies based off the customer. Sometimes I'll have those engineer customers, and they'll tell me the compressor's doing. I'm like, perfect, we're on the same page. You have like, if I have someone that happens to be a doctor, hey, the compressor's the heart. It's beating. It's pumping the refrigerant through the system. I can explain furnaces kind of like cooking. Like, hey, you have a heat exchanger. That's an oven. And so your duct work. And so I try to explain it to where I know it's geared best towards the customer that's in. Sometimes you get the customer where they don't care, right? Eyes glossed over. They're like, can you fix it? Like, of course, yeah.
Right. So, okay, yeah, so that's good. That's good. Yes, can you fix it? So in those situations, maybe it's a demand call,
right.
Older people, maybe it's a 10-year-old system or whatever. Will you give them multiple options on the repair, or how do you bring up replacement? Or do you show them the repair options are expensive because there's some major work that needs to be done, and do you let them go, wow, how much is a new one? Like, how do you handle that at that point of the call?
So depending on what we're doing, right, we always try to give a repair option because it is an option, right? And some people financially, we can do the repair now, but we can't do a full system later. So I like to give, honestly, every option that's available. Here's your repair. Here's the repair to fix your system. Here's some repairs you might be seeing in the future. And here's a replacement. And then it's my job to educate, and I'll give someone my honest feedback on like, hey, here's what's going on with furnaces. Like in California, we have to put in these low NOx furnaces. They're a little bit louder than what people are used to. So right now I've been heavily educating, like, go online, do some independent research, but listen to these furnaces. They're loud. And this furnace is in a hallway closet. We can still get you a 2023 furnace that doesn't have this. So we can make your repair and your furnace will be fixed. But when the time comes to replace it, you might be putting something in that you're not really going to be happy with. And same thing with AC. If it's using 410A refrigerant, we can still get it. It's like, hey, we can do this repair. We can fix it. And you'll be good. And because we're using, the newer refrigerant, we're fine. Yeah. R22, I'm like, look at the cost of this repair.
Right.
And I'll tell them, I wouldn't invest my money into this.
Right.
But I just give them my honest feedback on it. Okay. And I give them every option. Because if I only tell them they have to replace it,
right,
and they go and call someone else and they give them the option to repair it, you'll get the phone calls. Well, why didn't you give me the option? You just wanted me to do it. And so we like people to know, like, hey, you got all your options.